Oh, hello. Insert catchy theme music here, and welcome to my drunken review of The Cabin in the Woods. The thing about The Cabin in the Woods is, I'm going to lay my cards out on the table. This is a very spoiler-filled review, so if you don't want any spoilers in your review, walk away now. Hurry around, get away. Because this is very much a movie about not knowing what you're walking into. Um, and unfortunately, despite the advertisements that go, "Oh, you don't know the story, you don't know what's going on," it's kind of easy to see what's coming down the road and see what's going on. Except for the last couple of minutes, which are so ballsy that I really do not know if I enjoyed this film or not. Because I did, but I also don't know if I did or not. And that is, to me, the chief problem with the film. Quick rundown, the film opens up with two guys in an office building of some sort. They're talking about their day, they're talking about this project that they're working on. It's a really big day, it's an amazing thing, and they're going to nail it, they're going to knock it out of the park. And we cut to five teenagers. They're probably not teenagers. They're all college age kids, and they're about to go on a trip to some cabin in the woods. You've got your semi-athletic guy. You've got your ditzy-ish blonde, who is, of course, his girlfriend. You've got the girl who is kind of a virgin, but she also just kind of had a thing with her professor. So there's that. You've got the guy who nobody really knows, but he's pretty smart. He's a scholarly kind of guy, and they're trying to hook the virgin up with him. And then the stoner. The stoner gets so many Whedon-esque lines. It's amazing. By the way, I totally forgot to mention that this film was co-written by Joss Whedon, who's a little bit of a geek god, and he has this little movie called The Avengers coming out next week. If you haven't heard of it, and a lot of you probably have not, go look it up. It looks like it's going to be an incredibly fun time at the theaters. That one's empty. I'm going to need another. It's going to be very fun, The Avengers, and possibly more fun than The Cabin in the Woods. And I say that because we've got these two separate stories. You've got the guys who are trying to be professional, and they've got their project, and they're working on this thing, and ultimately it is revealed that they are enacting this ancient ritual to sacrifice people to these ancient gods to prevent these gods from destroying the entire world. Literally, that's what's at stake for these guys, is the world, everything. There's apparently sites in Japan, Buenos Aires, France, Italy. We see all these different scenes on computer monitors where there are these different monsters that are supposedly supposed to kill people as part of ritual sacrifices. But the crux of the film is that everybody else, for some reason, they've been failing. They can't complete their rituals. They can't even kill anyone and complete the rituals to keep the gods at bay. So it's all come down to the Americans, and they need to complete the ritual, or basically the entire world is fucked. And that's pretty cool, but it isn't treated that seriously. Like, it is treated like it's an average day on the job. And that's great. I mean, for these guys, it is an average day on the job. Let's lead these people out to a ritual sacrifice, and let's get them all killed, and then we make sure that these ancient gods beneath the surface don't come to animation and destroy the entire world. That's their job. So it is treated like a normal job, but also it is very comedic, it's very lighthearted, and it doesn't really hold much weight with the rest of the film. Because what you see in the second storyline is so disparate from what you see in the corporate office ritual killing people building that there's no genuine sense of shock. There's tension throughout, of course, because the five teens, they go to the cabin in the woods, and it's very eerie, it's very ominous. but you don't care about them because aside from the basic setup, you don't really get any insight into who these people are, and you don't really get a reason to care about them. Mr. Whedon and the director of the film, Drew Goddard, have both commented on this is kind of their deconstruction of the horror genre, and it's kind of their statement on the way that horror has become torture porn, if you will. Kids get chopped up, sliced up, cardboard characters left and right, and there's really no true sense of horror films like you've seen in like classic horror films like Halloween or The Exorcist, or for me, The Ring is an excellent example of a great horror film that makes you care about the characters. You gain insight into who they are and why they're doing what they're doing and why it's so important for them to stay alive. These 5 kids I could give a fuck about. They have they're especially the stoner Marty. He has some great lines, and he's funny and witty. And all the other characters serve to be like funny, witty, sexy, but they're ultimately cardboard cutouts of real characters. And I feel like this was done on purpose in order to make a statement, but that is so just God. I can't get behind the making of a statement like that because, I go into a horror film, and I'm no horror expert by any means. I'll be the first to admit that. I've spent years studying horror, I love the horror genre. I love horror films. I haven't seen every single horror film ever made, and I don't consider myself an expert on the subject, but I like to think that I'm a little well-versed in horror knowledgeability and what makes a horror film work. And one of the things I feel that makes a horror film work is when you care about the characters and creating palpable tension within the film. There is no tension really within the film because even in the opening credits they allude to the sacrificial nature of what's going on, and then there's really no tension. There's a couple of moments where you're like, ooh, what's gonna happen, what's going on, and then they kind of cut away from that and they show you exactly what's going on from the perspective of the guys who are trying to make the ritual happen. They have cameras in the cabin. They have means of controlling things. So, like, hey, they need the ditzy blonde and the athlete guy to have sex. So they trigger pheromones to pop up. So she's like, ooh, I want to get dirty now. And they have ways of, like, locking all the doors in the cabin, keeping track of everyone, making sure that they're directing everyone in places that they need to go. There's a scene in the film, and this is, I think, the best illustration of my problems with the film. There's a scene in the film where you watch the kids driving towards the cabin in the woods. They're Winnebago/motorhome camper, whatever. It drives through a tunnel that goes through a mountain, and then you see this eagle flying along, and it's like, do-do-do-do-do, but it crashes into this invisible force field that the tunnel in the mountain, goes around. But it crashes into this invisible force field, and it lets you know that these kids are trapped there. And you go, shit, there's a force field there. What the hell is going on with this? But later, the athlete guy, he's like, I'm going to go for help. There's been a cave-in in the tunnel. We can't go through there. But this ravine, I've made bigger jumps than that. So he hops on his dirt bike, and he's about to jump the ravine. But the audience knows that there is that force field there. That force field exists. So when he jumps the ravine, we're already like, dude, you're about to die. So it's not very shocking that he runs into the force field and he goes falling to his death. The other characters are like, oh my god, I didn't see anything there. What the hell did he just do? And to the other characters, they're surprised, but we, the audience, are a step removed back from that, and we're not surprised by that because we've already seen the effects of the force field. We've already seen what will happen if he tries to cross the ravine, so we're just sitting there going, dude, don't do it. Dude, don't do it. Oh, you did it. You're an idiot. Fuck. And so we also there's so many things. It's an homage, it's a parody, it's a statement. It's like a breaking the fourth wall in a way that like of course they find the diary in the basement of the cabin. And of course they read the Latin in the diary, in the basement of the cabin. And of course reading that Latin phrase out loud causes these zombies to rise up from the earth. And that's what starts killing the kids. Now, if you've seen any horror films at all, you will recognize the things that they are picking up and touching in the cellar, in the cabin, and you will recognize the fact that they are essentially about to invoke some sort of evil. It just so happens that they pick the diary first before anything else can be opened. There's like different, and later on it's kind of hammered home, but that statement has its power kind of lost. It's kind of taken away in a sense because you already understand that these kids chose the way that they were going to die. The zombies are running amok, and God, there's so much. This fucking film. Needless to say, let's fast forward to two of our stereotypical cardboard cutout kids. They get through the cabin. They discover that the zombies were released into their area of the woods via a service elevator, which they hotwire to take them back down. God, this is another problem I have. How the fuck did the stoner dude learn how to rewire service elevator maintenance equipment in order to send the elevator back down? He says himself that there's no controls in the elevator, but he just suddenly knows how to hotwire. We're not given any sort of context for this. We're not given sort of any pretense to believe that he can do this, but we just believe that he can do this because we're kind of going along with everything at this point. Because this film is throwing shit left and right at you. It's like spaghetti that's trying to stick to the wall desperately. Here's this, here's this, here's this, and it's happening so lightning fast that you don't have time to comprehend what the fuck is actually going on. But they ride the elevator down, and they enter the corporate office film world of these people who are trying to commit the ritual so that the gods do not rise. And at this point, those people are going DEFCON 1, people. We didn't kill everyone like we thought we did. So fuck, this shit's about to get really real. So, the kids discover that there are all these different monsters that are used for completing the different rituals that have come before and supposedly will happen again. There's ghosts, there's bondage demons a la Hellraiser, which is a great homage to Hellraiser, but what these kids decide to do is they conveniently come across this control terminal which allows them to let out all of the monsters into the complex and go fuck with everything. And that hurt so bad because this is the part where it starts spiraling into this mess, because you get the sense that these people trying to complete the ritual are trying to maintain a sense of order in this world of chaos. They're like, we need to keep the gods from rising. Even though it's very lighthearted, there's a lot of comedy involved. You get the sensation that they're maintaining order. It's not pleasant, but they're maintaining order. But then these kids we're expected to root for them and to uphold them and lift them up as heroic figures, even though we don't know who the fuck they are. We don't give a shit about who they are, aside from the fact that they have witty one-liners. And they're kind of cool, and the stoner dude, he kind of came back, even though we thought we saw him die. And now these kids managed to make their way down to the pit, just above, conveniently above where the ancient gods are. So now they're confronted by the director of the entire program, and she says, hey, listen, you guys need to understand that the entire world is at stake. Now, the stoner dude, since everyone thought that he was dead, they figured, okay, we'll offer up a blood sacrifice for him. But the gods rejected it, unbeknownst to everybody, surprise, surprise, because the stoner dude actually wasn't dead, so he wasn't sacrificed, so the ritual cannot be completed. The stoner guy just has to die, and it's him and the virgin girl. Now, the virgin girl can stay alive or she can die, doesn't really matter, but the stoner guy has to die to complete the ritual, and it has to happen in the next 8 minutes if anything is going to be saved. It's the entire world versus one human being. The entire world versus one human being. Now, the fact that these people even do this is kind of monstrous, that they sacrifice human beings in order to maintain the earth and humanity on it. Absolutely despicable. But it comes down to this moment where the virgin girl, who has been our plucky heroine throughout the entire film and has survived everything, she comes down to the choice between one person in the entire world, and she gets ready to kill that one guy, but then she's attacked from behind by a werewolf, miraculously. She doesn't get to shoot the guy. The stoner guy, could have said something like, hey, there's a werewolf behind you, but he specifically chose not to, because he didn't want to die, and he didn't want to let these other people have the benefit of allowing the ritual to be completed. So what then happens is that the old gods rise up and the world is destroyed. For those of you who play video games, that is what is known as the bad ending. That is the part where you go back and you reload your last save before you played the ending of the game. And you do so that you can go back and save everyone. This is the bad ending because no one wins. Sure, the defiant stoner guy who we don't give a shit about, aside from the fact that he's pretty fucking funny and has a lot of cool one-liners, is a pretty cool dude, admittedly. Aside from that, we don't give a fuck about him. And yet he says, fuck it. The world should just end. And then the world ends. There is no win situation. This is the everybody dies, literally everybody dies situation, and that is how the film ends. The film ends with the entire world going into Armageddon mode. Because some fucking stoner dude decided that spitting in the face of these ritualistic cult people who have been performing this ritual, this cult sacrifice for millennia, he decides that spitting in their face and allowing the entire world to crumble and die is a way better idea. Well, maybe I'm reading too much into this. Maybe the point of the film is to say that horror needs to be taken in a different direction, torture porn is not the way to go, two-dimensional cardboard cutout characters are not the way to go, and maybe by presenting us with those things and then subverting them, and then pulling back and saying, hey, you know, let's really go ape shit and metaphysical on you guys by saying the fact that every cabin in the woods kind of film is basically these kids getting sacrificed by a corporation whose job it is to sacrifice kids to these gods in order to make sure that they don't rise up and destroy the entire world. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. But to me, I feel like there was a very missed opportunity here. We had the opportunity to see a horror film that stands on its own merits, puts the finger, the middle fucking finger, to all the tropes and cardboard cutouts and stereotypes in other horror films and says, fuck you. We're going to take this, we're going to spin it on its ear, and we're going to create something brand new, and it's going to be horrific, and it's going to be tense and strenuous, and it's going to be simultaneously a love letter to horror films all over the place. And I feel like they swung, and they kind of hit a piddling line drive to the shortstop, who caught it and fumbled it and tried to get them out at first base, but then just kind of barely missed, rather than the home run that I think these guys thought that they were getting into. This film is not a home run. This film tries to be two things. It tries to be funny, commentary, parody, homage, horror film, suspenseful, tension-filled. It tries to be so many things, and yet ultimately ends up just being. It doesn't go well, it doesn't go bad. It's an enjoyable film. It is a very enjoyable film. I had so much fun watching it, but when that ending came, when they ultimately decided, you know what, we're just gonna let the world end and fuck you guys, my head hurt. I sat through the entire credits with my jaw on the ground. I drove home with my brothers trying to figure out what the fuck can I say about this film. They all loved it, and I'm gonna catch shit for saying all this shit about it. They fucking loved it, and all I could think was, what the fuck were these people thinking? What the fuck? How does spitting in the face of Armageddon and saying, bring it on, destroy us all, we've had our time, what one individual, first of all, gets to say that? Second of all, why the fuck did I care about any of those kids? Third of all, why the fuck was I supposed to feel any kind of suspense or tension when they kept broadcasting, here's what's going on, here's what's going on, here's what's going on, oh, now you get to see it. Maybe the point of the film is to say, this is what horror films are like right now. Are you enjoying this? Maybe they're trying to say, hey, horror films shouldn't be like this. We shouldn't allow it to be this way. Maybe. Maybe I'm missing the point of the entire film. But if I'm missing the point of the film, then what's the point? You see what, do you know what I mean? Like, why go through all this effort to turn this into a film when this is really more of a thesis paper? Or a fan-made film on YouTube? This is something that could have been broadcast on the internet, and it would have worked out far more, but as a cinematic experience, I find it very lacking. It's like if American Pie released a sequel to American Pie, but crossed over with Hellraiser at the same time. No one would take it seriously, and yet this film was getting stunning rave reviews, because it's like, oh, it's so smart, it's so tongue-in-cheek, oh, it knows what it's doing, and it's subverting all the rules, and like, I just don't buy that. I don't buy the fact that it's subverting all the rules. I think it's succumbing to all of the rules. It feels like it is parodying and trying to homage. I mean, there are references to Hellraiser. There are references to Evil Dead. There are references to zombie films. There are references to everything that you can possibly imagine that is horror-related, and yet at the same time, it is so tongue-in-cheek that it does not matter. And it somehow decides to have the balls to go for the glorified destroying of the world ending. And we're supposed to buy it as a serious sort of statement. The film is well constructed, it's well put together, it's well written, but at the same time, it is trying to do so many things that ultimately the only thing it really accomplishes is just being there. I didn't I didn't dislike it, but I also didn't like it. So I don't really know what else to say about it aside from that. Anyways, so now that I've taken up about half an hour of your time, I don't really have editing software, so I can't really boil this down. But hey, it's a half-hour rant, and hopefully you found it semi-entertaining, and it made you think. Because that is what I am kind of hoping that this 25-minute experience will make you do, is make you think. Because the film will not make you think, aside from thinking, what the hell did I just see? I don't get it, man. I don't get why people are loving it as much as they do. And actually, in a way, I take that back. I do get why people are loving it as much as they do. I do get that. I just don't understand why more people aren't saying, what the hell was the point? Like, what is the point? What is the point of this movie? What is it trying to say? Because it's going off in one road and it's saying one thing, but it's also doing another entirely. And it's that whole do as I do, not as I say sort of mentality. And ultimately, I felt very neutral, nonplussed. Very absolutely neutral and nonplussed. And maybe that was the point. And if that was the point, then, fuck, I think Joss Whedon's way better than that. I think that this was a great opportunity to present a very suspenseful, unique horror film. But instead it got turned into a tongue-in-cheek kind of parody about horror as a genre and where it is right now. Anyways, so that's my rant. We are now closing in on the 27-minute mark. I'm so sorry that you sat through this. If you have made it through this, I would love to buy you ice cream to make up for it. This is my 4th beer, so I'm very inebriated now because I'm a lightweight, and I hope that you have a good night. I do recommend watching this film on DVD. Rent it, Redbox it, Netflix it, I don't give a fuck how you get at it, but watch it on DVD. Don't go to the theater for it. And then formulate your own opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have some sort of insight into it that I don't see. Maybe just the fact that they chose to end the world is enough of a high mark for it to be that not really awesome. But anyways, good luck. If you do choose to watch it, I hope you enjoy it. Like I said, did I enjoy it? I honestly have no idea.